Hello. Thanks for joining me for another study in the book of Proverbs. Before we get into our chapter today, I want to give a shout out to my friend Odessa in California. She phoned me last night. She saw that I was in Proverbs 24, and she wanted to remind me that in 24:16, it says, "For a righteous man falls 7 times and rises again, but the wicked stumble in the time of calamity." She wanted to remind me that that verse is on the bottom of French fry tray at In-N-Out Burger. For those of you who are not familiar with In-N-Out Burger in California, they have scripture passages on all their products. Last week when I was in California with my brother, we were noticing that, and on one of the packages it said Proverbs 3. And my brother asked me what that was, and I said, well, it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He'll make your ways straight." And they have John 3:16. They have other passages on their products. But Odessa wanted to remind me that that's on one of the products there in In-N-Out Burger. Thanks, Odessa. I appreciate that. Thanks for joining me for those. You know, as we go into chapter 26, that's where we'll be today. Chapter 26 is so fresh and so relevant, you would think that he wrote this all last week. You almost have to ask yourself, did Solomon have Facebook? Did he have Twitter? Did he have Instagram? I mean, all these comments that he made would make us think that he's watching the news that night and decided to write some of these things down. So there's some very relevant comments that he makes. So let's take a look at chapter 26, one of the better chapters, I think, in the book of Proverbs. Verse 1, "Like snow in summer and like rain in harvest, so honor is not fitting for a fool." Like snow in the summer. It doesn't snow in the summer in Palestine. It's so odd. He says, it would be like snow in the summer. It'd be like rain at harvest time. These things just never happen. He says that's what it's like to give honor to a fool. And he's going to emphasize this idea of a fool in this chapter. We'll see it over and over, this fool. 11 times he uses that word fool. Now fool here in Solomon's mind is not somebody who's intellectually stupid. He is quite capable, but he's chosen himself over God. He is dull of learning. He just is not knowledgeable in how to live a successful life, even though he might be intelligent. He's just not focused on the things he should be. And so it's not fitting to honor a fool. Verse 2, "Like a sparrow in its flitting, like a swallow in its flying, so a curse without cause does not alight." A sparrow and a swallow, they're always in the air. They never land, is what he's talking about. Like them when they're flying, a curse won't land on you because there's no such thing as a curse. You don't have to be afraid of somebody cursing you. You don't have to be scared of a voodoo doll or anything like that. And he's just reminding us of these superstitions that sometimes might be frightening, but they have no reality at all. 3, "A whip is for the horse, a bridle for the donkey, and a rod for the back of fools." A whip for a horse, a bridle for a donkey. These are ways you control those animals. You whip a horse, you put a bridle in the mouth of a donkey, and sometimes there's some folks that the only way you're going to get them under control is a rod. They have no self-control. They have no respect for others. And so that's the only way they're going to be in control. So this is about control here in this passage. In the United States, there is no law against stupid. There is no law against being a fool. I suppose if there were, we just have the prisons filled to capacity all the time. Some time ago, I had a cable TV repairman in the house, and he was from Singapore. He was talking to me about how clean Singapore was. In fact, Singapore is one of the cleanest countries in the world. There's no graffiti anywhere. You have to have a job. If you're on public welfare, you have a job of something. You might be at the airport greeting people. You might be emptying trash somewhere. You might be doing something, but you're going to do something. And they have real strict laws to maintain order. it is, if you are caught spitting out gum on a street in Singapore, the punishment is to be caned. It's to really the literal rod to the back of a fool. And they don't take you to trial. The policeman who sees you, he will take you out and he will beat you. Now, fortunately, we don't have laws like that because they're probably abused in our country. Our country be bright red because of all the foolish people we see and all their foolish actions. You just can't outlaw foolishness. And he says the only way you can really get a fool in line is just to beat it out of him. Oh, I don't know. Maybe there's a lot to say there. Verse 4, do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you will also be like him. Verse 5, answer a fool as his folly deserves, that he not be wise in his own eyes. Now you think, well, didn't he know that he said one thing in one verse and the opposite thing in the following verse? I mean, certainly Solomon knew what he's writing. Hezekiah's men who were writing this understood that there was a little bit of a contradictory nature in this. But he's not contradicting himself. He's just saying, don't answer a fool like a fool. Don't answer him in foolishness. But sometimes you need to say something to a fool. Then there's one kind of fool and another kind of fool. And so he's just saying, here, use your own discretion. Realize, don't answer a fool according to his folly, or you'll be like him. Don't be like a fool. But answer a fool as his folly deserves. Sometimes he needs to be corrected verbally. Verse 6, he cuts off his own feet and drinks violence, who sends a message by the hand of a fool. Ouch. You cannot trust a fool to be a messenger. If you need a diplomat, if you need an ambassador, don't send a fool. It's like cutting your own feet off or drinking violence. Somebody's going to get hurt. It reminds me of the story back in 1 Samuel 25 of Nabal and Abigail, when David sent his men to Nabal. And he answered them very rashly and foolishly. And then later, Abigail intercepts David on his way to destroy Nabal and his people. And she answers very wisely. And she says, Nabal, his name meant foolish. Nabal is his name, and Nabal is who he is. Not only is his name foolish, but he is a fool. And she saved the day by her diplomacy. And he says, it's like cutting off your own feet or drinking violence if you send a fool to give an important message to somebody. Verse 7, like the legs which are useless to the lame, so is a proverb in the mouth of fools. Well, a crippled person who can't walk, his legs are no good. Well, a proverb to a fool, it does him no good either. It is easier for a lame man to walk than it is for a fool to use a proverb. It's amazing. Solomon knew when he wrote these things that there would be those who would misuse these proverbs. You can misuse all of Scripture. And oftentimes people use proverbs to their own demise, their own damage. Verse 8, like one who binds a stone in a sling, so is he who gives honor to a fool. Very similar to what he said in verse 1. Verse 1, in giving honor to a fool is not something you should do. And he's saying, like one who binds a stone in a sling. You put a stone in a sling in the capable hands of somebody who knows what they're doing, and somebody is going to get hurt. And he says, that's what it's like to put a proverb in the mouth of a fool or to give honor to a fool. Somebody's going to get hurt. He says, like a thorn which falls into the hand of a drunkard, so is a proverb in the mouth of fools. The drunkard, he's numb. He doesn't realize that he's got this thorn sticking in his hand. He doesn't realize it. He's too drunk to get the point. And the fool is not able to get the point. That's what he says. He can't not get the point. And he says, it's like the thorn in a drunkard's hand, a proverb in his mouth. A fool mouth of a fool. The proverb, the fool just doesn't get the proverb. In fact, he does damage that he is unaware of. He does damage with that he doesn't even know about. And so this foolishness here he talks about. In verse 10, like an archer who wounds everyone, so is he who hires a fool or who hires those who pass by. The careless archer, he just shoots everywhere and everybody gets hurt. Like the cross-eyed javelin thrower. Heard of him in the Olympics? He didn't do that well, but he sure kept the audience at attention. This is this guy. He says, this is like a mouth of a fool. If you hire a fool, you're going to just be at attention all the time. He's going to keep you on your toes. He's going to make a mess out of things. Verse 11, like a dog that returns to its vomit is a fool who repeats his folly. Peter uses this, 2 Peter 2, to a dog returning to its own vomit. It sounds pretty gross. The point is that some people just don't learn. They keep on repeating their folly. Like the person who says to this guy, he says, if your friends all jumped off a bridge, would you do it too? He says, well, not again. People just don't learn sometimes. And that's what the point is here. It's terrible. It's gross, like a dog returned to its vomit. But that's what it is for a fool. He just continues to do stupid things. Verse 12, do you see a man wise in his own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than for him. Now this one hits a little bit closer to home. A man who's wise in his own eyes. There is enough pride in each one of us that think, I'm pretty smart. I'm pretty wise. I know what's going on. I know what's right. What Solomon is doing here, he's saying in a clever way, you need to be humble. You need to be humble. Those people who are wise in their own eyes. We need to realize that we're not all that smart. We're not all that insightful. We're not all that wise. And so he says, a man who's wise in his own eyes, there's more hope for him than for a fool. And you know how foolish a fool is. So the call for us is to be humble. Well, that does hit close to home. In verse 13, the sluggard says, there's a lion in the road. A lion is in the open square. As the door turns on its hinges, so does the sluggard on his bed. The sluggard buries his hand in the dish. He is weary of bringing it to his mouth again. The sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can give a discreet answer. Here's the sluggard again, this lazy guy. There's a lion in the street. No, there's no lion in the street. He just has excuses after excuse. He has reasons why he can't go work today. He's got this injury. He's got this condition. He's got this problem. The people at work don't respect it. There's just always an excuse why he can't go out and get a job and keep a job. As the door turns on its hinges, this is a guy. As he rolls over, he does that on his bed. He buries his hand in the dish, but he's just so lazy he can't bring it to his mouth. Which is an insightful thing. He's got food there, he just can't use it. Because here's the point. This guy has plenty of opportunities in front of him if he would just take advantage of them. He's got food in front of him. He's got everything he needs in front of him. He's just too lazy to take advantage of what's in front of him. And he's wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can give a discreet answer. Oh, he's got all the excuses. He's got all the reasons why he can't do this. In fact, if he put half the energy into working as he did to making excuses, he'd probably be pretty wealthy. He just spends all his time making up excuses. Verse 17, like one who takes a dog by the ears is he who passes by and meddles with strife not belonging to him. You pick up a dog by its ears, I suppose you're going to be bit. You should be for such cruelty. And he says, you're going to get in trouble by doing that. And he says, that's the same thing as going by and seeing an argument between people and meddling in somebody else's business. Once again, Solomon is just cleverly saying, mind your own business. Don't get involved in meddling in other people's arguments. It's easy to see somebody arguing and want to get involved. He says, just pass them by. Don't get involved. You're going to get hurt by doing that. Like a madman who throws firebrands, arrows, and death, so is the man who deceives his neighbor and says, was I not joking? A madman, he throws firebrands, arrows, and death. He causes all kinds of destruction. And when he's caught in his deception, he says, well, I was just kidding. Nah, I was just joking. Can't you take a joke? If you know this guy that Solomon knew, and I do, I know this fella, you know how much destruction he causes. Oh, but he's a good old guy. And he likes to joke and he likes to kid. He just leaves a lot of rubble in his past. Verse 20, 21. For lack of wood, the fire goes out. Where there is no whisperer, contention quiets down. Like charcoal to hot embers and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. Wow, there's a passage that is desperately needed today. If you take wood out of a fire, the fire dies out. You put wood in the fire and the fire comes out. He says, you put somebody who whispers, I got the secret here, let me tell you about it. He's a gossip, he's a slanderer. He likes to keep things stirred up. He says, as long as he's there, things are going to be, you pull that whisperer out, contentions are going to die down. You keep him there, and this guy, he likes to kindle strife. He likes doing this. This is what he does. And I think maybe Solomon was on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram or watching the nightly news or something. Well, we know he wasn't. See, things haven't changed. There's nothing new under the sun. There's always been troublemakers. The only difference now is they have all this technology to really make a mess of things. And they continue to keep things stirred up. Did you notice that when you go on Facebook, how many people like to keep things going and keep things stirred up? When you watch the news, have you noticed that oftentimes they're just trying to keep things stirred up? The old saying, don't wrestle with pigs because you both get muddy, but the pig likes it. These people like keeping things going. What practical words for today. Get this gossip, get this slanderer turned off. In fact, so many people just want to step away from Facebook, and I don't blame them because there is so much of this going on in all the media that we have. Verse 22, the words of a whisperer are like dainty morsels, and they go down into the innermost parts of the body. Now there's the problem right there, isn't it? We often enjoy listening to this gossip, this slanderer. You know what Republicans like to hear is something bad about the Democrats. You know what the Democrats want to hear? Something bad about the Republicans. You know what these people, they want to hear these salacious stories, especially about those people they might not necessarily like to start with. And man, it just tastes so good going down. Now, that's a proverb worth repeating, and it's repeated here word for word from Proverbs 18, verse 8. It's just so true. Verse 23, like an earthen vessel overlaid with silver dross are burning lips and a wicked heart. An earthen vessel covered with silver. It looks good, but inside is cheap materials. It's just clay. It's not solid. There's something wrong with it. It's not what it looks like it is. And that's the person with the burning lips and a wicked heart. He's not watching his lips. He has a wicked heart. He might look good on the outside, but you know that inside is rottenness. What comes out is what's inside of us. You know, when things come out of our mouths, where did that come from? Well, it came from your wicked heart. And so Solomon is just reminding us that it might look good on the outside, but you have to be careful. I wonder if this is talking a little bit about vain worship. You know, we want to look good to God. More or less, we want to look good to other people, and we try to show off. We want to dress up nice, and we want to look this way and this way. But inside, maybe it's not what we are supposed to be. Verse 24, he who hates disguises it with his lips, but he lays up deceit in his heart. Solomon just did get off of Facebook. He disguises it with his lips. He lays up deceit in his heart. You know, it sounds good. Why, what a nice dress you have. You know, the old Eddie Haskell thing. You know, they say nice things, but that's not what they mean at all. There's wickedness in their heart, and it's going to come out eventually. It will come out. When he speaks graciously, do not believe him, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. There's the warning. When you hear this guy saying good things, don't believe it all. Someone said a compliment is like perfume. It's okay to smell it. You just don't want to drink the entire bottle. And don't believe this guy. He has 7 abominations in his heart. 7. He's totally sold out to sin. There's so many problems in his life, but he sure can talk up a good show. Verse 25, or verse 26. Though his hatred covers itself with guile, his wickedness will be revealed before the assembly. It will come out. No one's going to be fooled. You know, with Eddie Haskell, Mrs. Cleaver was never fooled by him. She knew what was going on. And everybody else, that was what's so fun about watching him. Everybody was in on the joke. And this is no joke what he's talking about here, but you should be in on what is being said is not being done sincerely. He who digs a pit will fall into it, and he who rolls a stone, it will come back on him. There is the idea of karma. We think of karma as part of Eastern religions, but it certainly was manifested here first. This idea that what you do is going to come back on you. What you sow, you'll also reap. You need to be careful because your actions are going to have certain consequences. And if you want to hurt somebody, it's just going to come back and hurt you. And so the idea here, for a better word is karma. We understand that concept. In verse 28, a lying tongue hates those it crushes, and a flattering mouth works ruin. Once again, Solomon just emphasizes over and over, there is power in the tongue. Lying to someone is hateful. What an interesting chapter full of fools, warnings about foolish behavior. It talks to us about our tongue again. It cuts down right down to the very basics. You know, we need to be careful nowadays. We hear so much. We get back to social media for just a moment. I'm surprised at all the Marxist rhetoric we hear nowadays. You know, the Marxist rhetoric is pretty much says, change our society and you'll change people. If we could have this utopian society, people would be different. But the problem is, no matter what they try or what they do, and it's been tried and tried again, it's been tried in Russia, it's been tried in China, it's been tried in everything. The thing that fails every time is people's hearts are still sinful. There is still foolishness. There is still evil that exists. It's just not true. Because if there was a utopia, it'd be like trying to find the perfect church. You know what happens? You find the perfect church. Well, they don't let you in because you're not perfect. The utopia is a place where you're never going to fit in. And so this idea of change society and you're going to change people is just not true. Which gets us back to Solomon. What Solomon is saying is You change your heart, and you are going to change our society. The key to changing our society is to change the human heart. You got to watch what you say. You got to watch what you say because there's power in words. You got to know that your behavior has consequences. And you have to know that what you say and the way you behave all has its origins in your heart, in the way you think. Thank God that as Christians, that God changes us from the inside out. He changes our heart first, and then our behavior follows. This is bad religion. Bad religion says, just change your behavior and God will be happy with you. Change your behavior and your insides will be different. And that's bad religion, because God says this is the opposite. Let me change your heart first, and then your behavior will change. Then your vocabulary will change. On the Sermon on the Mount, remember, Jesus says it begins with your heart. Change your heart and your behavior will change. Your relationships will change. Then society will change. God is He wants to change our heart. He wants to change our minds. Paul talks about that mindset. That mindset on things that are right. Set your mind on things that are good. He talks about purification, purifying your heart. It starts with each one of us as individuals. I like Proverbs. And in a chapter like 26, it's easy to read over and say, isn't that funny? It's like tasty morsels because we're talking about somebody else. We're talking about that fool over there. But maybe we should slow down just a moment and say, sometimes I act foolishly because there's still some foolishness in my heart. Stop and pause and ask God for a pure heart. It comes from reading God's word and applying it to your life and asking God in prayer to come and help you and to strengthen you to be that person that He wants you to be. What good stuff. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to joining you next week for another chapter in Proverbs.